What will the future of real estate look like? Is conventional real estate dying? Join us while we dive into conversations to explore that very question and attempt to demystify current and potentially new real estate trends with the disruptors themselves. Good morning, Simon. We've been chatting pre-record for about 30 minutes, and holy cow, I just was like, this is gold. I need to hit
Pure gold,
record.
pure gold. So
I
nice to
am.
meet you.
It is so nice to meet you and learn a little bit about you. And I cannot wait to dive into FinTracker, your baby. But for those that may not know about you or FinTracker, can you just give us a brief overview and then we'll hop into the meat and potatoes?
Yeah, I mean, during our opening here, we were talking about my roots. I born in Italy and went through Venezuela, landed in Canada, but I had a entrepreneurial itch from a young age, and I started my first business when I was 19 years old, bought my first home, renovated it, sold it, went and bought two more. And so
Oh my
real estate,
gosh.
yeah, real estate was always at the core. Also with my family, when we migrated to Canada, we moved almost every year, and I saw these real estate fees going out the window and going, one day maybe I'll become a realtor and save my family some money. Of course, as
Yeah.
soon as I became a realtor, we
Uh,
stopped moving.
yeah,
But
naturally.
yeah, yeah. So I started real estate in 2010 after closing a business that wasn't serving me. And
Mhm.
so I went into back to what I knew, which was real estate. I was an investor first, of course, renovating homes, selling them, and then picked up the books in 2010. My wife said she was pregnant, and
No pressure, hey?
yeah, and I hit the ground running. I contacted everybody I knew. Winnipeg is like a big town. Okay, it's
Hmm.
not I call it a big town. Everybody knows
Yeah.
everyone. And so I reached out to my network, and my first listings were a 30-unit condo development, a 90-unit bare land condominium
Hmm.
out in West Hawk Lake, or Falcon Lake, I should say. And so I was really busy from day one, and I was
That's so great. You're so lucky. Like
oh
when people
yeah.
call me and they're like, "Hey, I want to be a realtor." I'm like, "Really? Okay, cool. Why?" Like, let me understand your motivations. And they see like these people, these influencer realtor people who are wicked. But I'm like, you got to understand that you have a one in whatever chance of making that.
Can you imagine being a realtor in the last 2 years? I mean, I feel so bad for these youngins coming in and
Yeah,
thinking, they're going to hit the ground running. It's
it
tough.
is tough. There's tears in your shower tough, you know?
But the good times are coming. I think it's all cyclical, right? I remember
Agreed.
coming in, I was fortunate to know the
Yeah.
people. I was a popular person. I made a lot of friends and no enemies. So it was
Yeah.
very easy to tell them, look, I'm hungry. I'm changed careers and I'd
Hmm.
like an opportunity. And they gave me a shot.
I
Uh,
love that.
but it's all cyclical because it was not as busy in the first few years,
Hmm.
although I was busy. And then it just, the boom comes every almost five
Hmm.
years. So you just have to
Yeah.
hang in there and keep sharpening your tools and then swing the axe when it's time. Yeah.
Agreed, agreed. I also started and was lucky enough to have a network in a previous career, so I was able to leverage some life experience and got really lucky, but was also really hungry. I wanted to prove that I could do it, and I would assume that I feel like you've played a lot of sports. Is that true?
I played soccer and
There
yeah,
you go. See, I can tell when people have played sports because you have this like sort of like competitive hunger naturally.
I played at a high level too in soccer. Those were the glory
Yeah,
days.
the glory years. So you were a realtor. You mentioned your younger brother, also a realtor.
Yeah.
You both kind of work together a little bit now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So my younger brother, he was a musician. He was in Brandon University. I thought that was what he was going to do, and he saw his big brother, doing big
Yeah.
things over in the city. He gave me a call one day and he said, "Look, I don't think I want to make a career out of this anymore." He went and toured with the band and they
Oh,
had some
cool.
fun, but
Yeah.
he wanted to get into real estate. And
Hmm.
he is so like me that I
Yeah.
knew he'd be great at it. So
Yeah.
it was perfect. And now I couldn't have seen it any other way because when I took on FinTracker halfway through my career,
Mhm.
he was able to support me and take care of my clients so that I can apply my energy and time to building this app. And believe me, it took all my energy and time, which
I
I think
love
you're
that.
learning now, right?
There's still some tears in my shower for sure.
And there will be more. So pack a lunch, but the
Yeah.
secret is never to quit, right? When I first started, about 10 years ago, it was just a concept like anything else.
Mm,
You come up with
yes.
the concept, you have to keep your mind open and know that what you started with is not going to resemble the finished product at all.
Yeah.
But you have to figure it out by trial and error. Unfortunately, that's the only way. And where
That's
you
how all the good stuff happens,
that's
you
right.
know?
And the second you quit, somebody picks up where you left off.
Hmm.
So I knew we were early, as a realtor
Yeah.
doing high level or high volume sales, all this paperwork. I said,
Oh
why
my
do we
gosh.
have to
Yeah.
do this? So I had to understand the significance of it and
Yeah.
why it was so important to the broker. And I said, there's got to be a better way, right? Here comes the entrepreneur in me, or the
Hmm.
problem solver, really is what I am. And I
Yeah.
said, I think I can solve this. And told my
Yeah.
wife, we're going to invest some money. And said, oh no,
Was she like, oh gosh, Simon,
here
don't
we
do
go
it?
again. Yeah. Oh yes. And I don't blame her. I mean, I was crazy. I had a top producing career.
Yeah.
At the time that I decided to build FinTracker, I
Yeah.
was crushing it in real estate. Like we were doing for
Yes.
100 ends a year. Like just
Yeah.
looking good, right? And
Yeah.
and just enjoying what I was doing, really, really honing my craft. But I had to solve it. So I thought, okay, let me take a few weeks out and invest a few
Hmm.
bucks and build this app that can
Hmm.
scan IDs and fill the papers so I can get on
Yeah.
with my business. And I learned very quickly it wasn't going to take 2 weeks. And we built it
Yeah.
the first time and threw all the money in the garbage.
No, was the code shit? I hear so many horror stories. Like honestly, it makes me kind of want to vomit because I let you know a little bit about what else I'm working on, and I'm
That's
like,
what,
please,
yeah.
please, please. So was it the
Well,
code or was it?
I just didn't do enough research and I got
Mm,
the wrong people involved early on. And then I, of
um,
course, partnered with my chief technology officer and co-founder, Matt, who
hmm.
is brilliant. And,
Hmm.
he looked at it and said, how many people ask me to build apps? And I said, just look into this. And
Yeah,
then he
yeah.
called me back and said, okay, well, this doesn't exist. Let's do it. The rest is history, really. We built a wonderful tool early on
Hmm.
after my first failure, but then trying to get people to pay attention was
Hmm.
impossible. Realtors just didn't care, right? About what I'll just fill these forms out
Yeah.
after. Well, it defeats the whole
Yes.
purpose, right? You're
Hmm.
supposed to know your client, run your
Yeah.
AML obligations prior to, get the
Yes.
data to your office so they can screen it, monitor it, whatever they need to do, fulfill their obligations under the
Yeah.
act. We were giving merit to the process. We were collecting the data, forcing the hack
Yes.
early on, getting it submitted to the office.
Yep.
They can run their due diligence. And nobody was listening. And I almost threw in the towel. And I said, I think we're just early. And we
Yep.
kept going, one realtor at a time. Then was one brokerage, and we were jumping up and down. We signed our first brokerage. And there were some dark times,
Hmm.
especially, pandemic hit. We had just invested a tremendous amount in the 2.0 release, and the world was going crazy. And I said to my wife, we're going to go all in here. And she's like, I hope you know what you're doing.
You're like,
So
sure don't, but we're going all in.
yeah, it was an interesting time, but of course, people were not face to face. So we came up with the remote ID, which is sending the
Yes.
link to the client. There's a lot of sight unseen purchases taking
Hmm.
place, and the demand was there. So it took off. And I have a funny story, or not so funny for me, but I was called out to Toronto to present to the TREB brokers, right? TREB is
Hmm. Hmm.
massive.
Yeah. Don't they have close to 100,000 realtors or something silly?
The Treb, I think, was at 75,000 then. And so it's complicated out there.
Yeah.
There's now a technology provider known as proptech who has provided services to all Treb and Bear,
Boria or whatever.
you,
Yeah.
you name it, so many other boards. And we're over 30 now. But going back then, when we had gone out to Treb, if you don't get Treb, it's hard to get that traction. So we went out to the brokers' breakfast and they prepared me and said, this building has awful Wi-Fi. Please prepare yourself. So I went
Oh
in
no.
early,
Oh
right? Like
no.
2 hours early, like
Yeah.
had to knock on the door to get in and test the Wi-Fi, and everything was working beautifully. When it my time to go on the stage, the lights hit you, they have cameras. I mean, they do it big over there at the Toronto
Yeah.
Regional Real Estate Board. And my Wi-Fi wouldn't work, so I couldn't demo the app. And my partner
My
came,
stomach.
let
Ah.
me tell you, and I thought, oh my God, this is it. I was ready to faint on that stage.
Yes, I
I
want to faint
pushed,
for you.
yeah, something kicked in instinct, and I just talked my way through it and cracked
Mhm.
some jokes. And we were able to get the attention of some of the bigger brokers. They
Yeah.
called us when we returned to Winnipeg, when I was hanging my head going, I completely blew it. Like that was my one shot and I blew it.
That would have been my cry in the shower moment, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah, believe me, I had mine. And so we started getting some brokers and gained some traction. We signed the Barrie District Association of Realtors, which was our first board to
Yep.
take a chance on us. And then Guelph and Kitchener, and it started to snowball. And we were invited back to Toronto
Oh
to
no.
speak on the same stage at the same. I couldn't believe it. I said, this is the way it was meant to be. It's so
hmm
funny. At the time when bad
Yeah.
things happen to you, you hang your head but you gotta dig deep and find faith and understand that everything
Yes.
happens on not your
Yes.
timing. It's
I know.
the higher power. And so you got to trust the process. My
Yeah.
that's one of my slogans on my real estate website. So I went there and we nailed it. We just hit it out of the park and we
Yeah.
signed the TREB deal and we're 75% of the industry under contract and some big news coming, but I'm sure we'll talk about it in a
Yes.
little bit.
Well, I found out about FinTracker because I'm licensed in Alberta and BC. And I have two different brokerages. Don't ask. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into it. That's an actual beer conversation. But my BC brokerage has adopted FinTracker. So that's how I first heard about you. And then I was like, what the hell is FinTracker? And I did some Googling and LinkedIn searching, and voila, here we are.
Yeah, that's half the battle is getting agents to understand that this tool is available to them. We have over 110,000 under contract, but
Yep.
the majority of them aren't using it, right?
Yep.
Because mind you, over in Ontario, you have probably a big chunk of them that only do one or two transactions a year. So there's
Yeah.
that. But last year, I think we did over 260,000 transactions.
Wow.
And this year it's looking to increase substantially.
Mhm.
So
That's
it's
tremendous.
incredible.
So
It's
have you
wild.
noticed the app? Because you mentioned, how you start something, you think it's going to go one way. Have you noticed different iterations? I guess the remote verification was one of those probably pivots that you didn't necessarily see coming on your roadmap.
The secret to building an app, in my opinion, is
hmm
listening to the people that you've created it for. And
Yes.
not only am I a realtor, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
still involved in real estate. So I see the pain points, I understand them. But from day one, and
hmm
all my webinars with this is by realtors for realtors. So
Oh
if
my
you,
gosh, that's what we say because
yeah,
I hate when somebody, now I'm going to
true.
go tangent, but like you see some Joe Blower, little Miss Sally, who has never done a transaction in their life and they're like, "I understand." I'm like, "Do you? Do you actually understand?"
And why do you think we're so frustrated with all the softwares that they bring us in the real estate
Yes.
sector? And I'm not knocking, all of them, but there's some of
Yes.
them that are like, did you ask a
hmm
realtor how we would want this to work? Like the
Yes.
workflow doesn't make any sense. And so
Not user friendly, not practical.
that's
Yes.
right. And so we
hmm
listen to the realtors. Like FinTracker has literally been created,
hmm
shaped by dedicated compliance officers, brokers, realtors, of course.
Yes.
Any feedback they provide us, we table it, we talk about it, we vote, and usually it's good feedback and we implement
Yes.
changes.
Yeah.
But there's a long list of requests from the realtors.
Because it goes crazy. Like we're realtors, so we understand realtors, and they're also kind of loco in their own little ways, right? Like,
That's a prerequisite, isn't it?
oh, yes, I think so.
Yeah, real estate is a lifestyle, and anybody who thinks they're going to go in and work 9 to 5 and punch out has got something coming.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a lifestyle. You're on 24/7.
I love hearing people try to tell me about how much flexibility I have. And I'm like, that's cute. And my husband and I get in this battle sometimes, and I'm just like, dude, you have no idea. Like, just because I'm not in an office, like chained to a desk for 10 hours a day, I am always available. And I pride myself in quick responses. Like, that's,
And good realtors do. That was one of my number one things. Everybody would always say, "Wow, you answer the phone so fast." Yes, because you're looking for quick service, and I'm here to
yeah,
answer your questions, schedule a showing, whatever it is, and I don't want to miss any opportunity. So, I miss a phone call, I call it right back. And yes,
yes.
we do have a flexible schedule, but you know how many golf games I've left in the middle of the
Hmm.
golf game,
Yeah.
or how many dinners, or we're so flexible that on Christmas Eve, I get a client who wants to see a
I know.
house. I say, it's Christmas Eve. Do you mind if we do this tomorrow? No, we need to do it
Hmm.
now.
Or the vacations where you're not really there
Oh,
with your
that's
family. Like I'm there, but I'm not there because, I am trying to keep something together, or I luckily have some good friends in the industry that we collectively try to manage things so that we can go on vacation now. But at the beginning, I didn't have that.
isn't it funny? As soon as you land somewhere, the phone
Mhm.
starts to
Oh,
ring. It's
my husband always jokes. He's like, babe, it's time for you to go on vacation because I'm the busiest on vacation.
we have the same joke. We have the same joke. My wife always
Yeah.
says, things are a little quiet right now. Why don't you just go and take a trip somewhere? And then as soon as I get on the plane, everything happens. It's wild.
I
I don't know what
know.
it is.
It is funny though. I mean, and these are good problems to have, of course, but like, holy cow. I do think, and this is part of where Future RE has come from, like, I love talking to people like yourself who are, the status quo doesn't work anymore. And it doesn't work for me as a realtor, and it doesn't work for my clients. So, like, what the heck can we do to like make it better, remove some friction, and just enjoy it? Back to the whole Italy or East Coast thing, like are we supposed to be like so round tight 24/7?
Absolutely not. It took me years to figure out how to balance everything. People ask me, how do you do it? How are you selling real estate? Early on, I was
Yeah,
doing both because you gotta put
you
food on
have
the
to.
table.
I'm in that spot. So what you're saying as you look back, I am there and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I need to like focus on selling real estate, but I'm building a baby and I love this baby too, but they both need love and attention to survive."
Yeah, I think, real estate, obviously, you cannot schedule your time for that. It's when the phone rings
Yes.
and when the ball
Mm-hmm.
gets rolling, you have to keep it rolling. But
Yep.
you should try and dedicate some time to work on your baby and just be consistent. But
Mm-hmm.
take a deep breath, enjoy a sauna once in a while or a bike
Yes.
riding like you do,
Mm-hmm.
that's so
Yeah.
important. And
Yeah, you
not
got to
just work, work.
schedule the pause, Last year, I think there was about 4 or 5 of us women, moms, all run our own businesses, different industries, and we started to do this thing called Wellness Wednesday. And it was like 2 or 3 hours a day on Wednesday, only on
It's
Wednesday, like
not, it's
Wednesdays
not
afternoon.
tequila Wednesdays, is it?
There was this one Wellness Wednesday that got out of control. We had a real pivot after that. But it's fun and you need that and you need other entrepreneurs because the journey of entrepreneurship, as you know, you've been an entrepreneur since you were so young. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. I'm glad that you have a network. I wasn't that fortunate. I didn't have, in my town here, not too many entrepreneurial friends. And God bless them. I envy
Hmm.
them at times.
Yes.
They've seen me take so many risks over the last 20 years and running ragged while they're
Yep.
enjoying their weekends at the cottage
Oh,
and
I
they have
know.
these great cushy jobs. And I wish I could
Yes.
be that person, but
I
I'm not.
love that you just said that because I think this sometimes as well. And I've never shared this before, ever, except for my close, like, inner circle. But I was so stressed out last October, like the October that just passed a few months ago. I broke out in hives. Okay. Like the amount of pressure I was under was out of control. And, again, I see my friends and they're going on this great vacation and they don't have to bring blankie and everything looks hunky dory. And I'm like, fuck, why did I leave corporate?
Right?
It's hard, and it's not for everyone.
But that's just it. I think punching in 9 to 5 in the confines of an office, I just could never do it. It's not me. Maybe I don't know about you,
Yep.
but
I'm in the trenches with you, so I don't know.
I'm on the go. I can't sit still ever. So I'm always
Yeah.
trying to do something. Finding the balance, it took me years to do, and now
Yeah.
life is good. Like,
So
I
you found the balance now?
I have,
The
yeah.
elusive
I
balance?
have never felt better. When I
Yeah.
was doing real estate, I used to get chest pains, because it
Hmm.
just doesn't stop. It's one
Yep.
problem after another, and your
Yes.
phone is ringing, and you're driving, and you're eating on the go, and it really can be stressful. Maybe
Hmm.
not for the guys doing the
The
multi-million
one
dollar
deal. Oh
homes
yeah.
and doing one of those a week, but I
Hmm.
was selling properties, $110,000 homes to
Yeah.
$300,000 homes to
Yes.
the biggest listing was like 700,000 back
Yeah.
then. And you get one of those and you were celebrating, but you would provide the same service to all of them.
100%. But
Yeah,
that's what differentiates a very good realtor from someone else, in my opinion. Like everybody is the exact same regardless of price point, in my opinion as well.
100%. And
Yeah.
so that it was taxing on me, and I couldn't
Hmm.
find good help at the time. My brother was came on after, but I remember those days, and I never want to be that stressed out again. Your health is everything, and
I
so
agreed.
we found a great balance now. FinTracker, it's so rewarding when you go to these conferences. My favorite thing to do, by the way.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
my new partnership, so we just brought on an investor. I can't say who,
Okay.
but
Exciting though.
it's
Congratulations.
so exciting. There's a
Yeah.
press release coming in the next few weeks, and
Okay.
we'll be at the Buzz Conference in Mississauga, February 12th and 13th. And that's one of my favorite things to do is these conferences because you get to speak with the realtors face to face. They run to your booth and go, "Hey, Simon, you're the FinTracker guy. Watch your videos." That is so rewarding to me.
Hmm.
And when they tell me how it helps them and what value it's brought to their process, right? So
Which
that's the best part.
that is very rewarding. And I think as a realtor who has found a pain point, who has now provided a solution, because you were there and you're like, it has to be better. And so to be the person who has made it better is awesome, right?
Yeah. It was incredible for me to see these forms being manually filled out, or we
Yeah.
evolved to the editable
PDF.
PDFs, and then
Oh God.
we would scan them and email them to the office, and in some
Oh,
offices they would put them in a drawer, and others, store them electronically and just wait for FinTrack to come and see if you're doing.
audit. Hmm.
Like I saw this was heading for catastrophe. So when we provided the solution, we realized also just a few years ago that the lenders were going to fall into this, and now they have.
Hmm.
And that the lawyers eventually would come under pressure from the title insurance companies because there's a
Yes.
massive amount of fraud taking place. They're not able to process the ID in time. Lawyers see the clients, right before
Hmm.
possession, right?
Yes.
And so we saw an opportunity. We had the grand vision is to minimize the friction. You used those words early on.
I did,
Minimize
yeah.
the friction, not just for the realtors and the brokers, but for the
Hmm.
clients. Think about this, Amy, which a lot of agents listening to this podcast are going to come to realize that their clients are being identified by them. Then
Hmm.
they're going to the lender. They're going to be identified again by another software, another company,
Yes.
then the lawyer again. By the end of this transaction, they're
Hmm.
going to feel invaded. They're going to have their arms in the air and never want to
Yep.
do this real estate for as long as possible.
Yes.
And we acknowledge that. We shared our
Hmm.
vision with our incoming partners who have
Yes.
the exact same vision.
I
Is
love
not
this.
only to improve the protection of the data, of course,
Hmm.
number one priority, but to create a seamless process for the consumer, the sellers and home buyers being identified by the agents. The agents are
Hmm.
already collecting the lawyer's information and the lender's
Yes.
information.
Freaking hallelujah.
So, with the consent of our clients, they
Yes.
may not consent, so they'll have to learn the hard way by
Yeah.
going,
I mean, some people do.
yeah, with the consent of the clients, we can provide that information just like we do the offers and all the other documents
Hmm.
in a secure environment to the lenders and to the lawyers to allow them to do all of their due diligence to fulfill their
Brilliant.
obligations under the act. And
Yep.
the client doesn't have to be bothered at every checkpoint from different companies, right? So
Yes.
that's our goal.
I
That's
love
the
it.
grand vision, and that's where we're headed in 2025.
Wow, that's so exciting. 10 years ago. Could you have foreshadowed, like, wow, in 10 years, I'll be speaking at Treb twice or multiple times in these conferences and
I envisioned a lot. I don't want to sound, I'm extremely humble and grateful for everything that's happened, but I think that you have to. I don't know how you feel about, manifesting things, but
Oh,
I'll
I'm
tell
into the woo-woo, Simon, okay?
anybody who wants to discount it can just take a look at what I did. I used to write it down. I wrote down exact dates,
hmm
targets, goals,
You're speaking to my soul, you know.
right? Numbers.
I'm
You
quite
have to have a
similar.
vision board, right? And
Yeah.
so I have this black book that I carry with me. But the important thing is not just writing it down, reading it every day. And then it becomes. It
Mhm.
just is. And I nailed it to the date, to the dollar, to the
I
every
love
target
it.
was
Are
being
you a
met.
Bob Proctor follower
I
kind of
have,
thing?
I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
Bob Proctor. I have a few books here. I don't want to freak your people
No. I
out.
mean, if they're following me, they're probably like used to a little bit of like outside the box.
You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
You got to meditate on that and give thanks every day and try and stay positive and trust the
hmm
process. Because the second you quit, like I said,
Oh, it's
somebody will
so
pick up where you
true.
left off.
I love everything you're saying, and it's very in resonance with the way I sort of operate within the world. And people will think you're crazy,
Oh
or at
yeah,
least I think some people think
I,
I'm crazy.
I'm
But
perfectly okay with it.
right?
If you want to do what the 1% do, you
Yeah,
have to do what 99% aren't willing to do. And so maybe that's crazy. I wish that for everybody. I wish everybody would do what makes them happy, what reach for their goals and take a shot. It's not for everyone. There's a
it's
lot of risks
not.
involved, especially
Yes.
when you have a family. I was very fortunate that
Yep.
my wife was my biggest supporter. Says, let's do it. We'll figure it out. We always do.
Oh,
So
I love that so much. My husband is like used to me, obviously, but sometimes he's like, because I get so amped. Like if the littlest win comes, I'm like, yeah, I just want to celebrate it.
amazing.
And he's like, listen, babe, let's not get too excited. You hadn't hit X, Y, Z. And I was like, yeah, but I'm gonna because I already hit this one. And so
That's
he
right.
puts up with my crazy, I'm sure, but like it's a lot of risk, as you know, to invest. You're not only investing a lot of money, but I have to miss hockey games for my kids sometimes or soccer games because I have to go to a showing because I'm doing this large investment and
I know
all I
all
think about
about
is
that
that, like and
sacrifice. Yeah, I
it's
know.
sacrifice and you kind of lose I don't know, like I'll ask you like I have been losing people and they'll come back eventually, but
And they
I'm short
and
on time.
and they might not, and it was
They
meant to
might
be
not.
that way. Trust me.
Yeah.
I,
hmm
I used to beat myself up about missing out on certain things. And
Yeah.
I wish I could tell everybody when you get to your destination, you'll look
hmm
back and you'll realize how every step of that process
Yeah.
was supposed to be exactly the way it was.
Yeah.
Don't
Even the
sweat,
hives.
don't sweat. The highs probably the most important, but don't sweat the little things. It all will
Yeah.
work out in the end.
And the right people do present themselves. Like, how did you meet your now partner?
That's a long story.
Yeah.
So we dated when I was in high school, and we went our separate ways. And she moved to Toronto and big city life, and I stayed here
Yeah.
in Winnipeg, and went into different sales and that. My first job, I worked for my wife's father, who owned a plumbing company. So I
hmm
did plumbing for like I don't know, a summer and a half or something. I don't know, a year. I can't remember, but I learned
Yeah.
how to be a plumber apprentice. When we broke up, she went to Toronto. 10 years later, we bumped into each other at an AC/DC concert in Winnipeg.
Oh my
Literally,
gosh.
literally physically bumped into each other.
That's fate.
I believe so. And
That's fate.
so that was it. After that, we went on a date and never looked back. It was
I
wild.
love it.
And she was with me when I closed my businesses that I had. I
hmm
had four stores, different business. And
hmm
when I closed the doors, I lost everything. As an entrepreneur has gone through it, failure is
hmm
part of the process. But I lost
Yep.
everything, and with my last few dollars, I bought her a ring. I said, "Do you want to stick around?" And she did, and I went into real estate, and
Holy cow, that's amazing.
yeah, it is quite the story. She's glad, and I'm glad that we
hmm
pushed through it.
Yeah,
But
2 kids later.
when you go through those hard times, if that can't break you, then you
Yeah.
become stronger for it. I mean, literally, now we look at problems and just laugh and go, We'll figure it out.
Well, and I mean, that explains a lot about her support, even when you're like crushing real estate and you're like, hey, I know that things are great right now and we've made it, but what about one more risk, babe?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty good at convincing folks. That comes from the sales side of me, but I
I thought
just,
it was the Italian side.
yeah, that could be it too. But you know it in your gut if you're passionate about something and you feel you
Yeah.
don't know why it's calling you, but deep down you know I
Hmm.
have to do this,
Yeah.
then do it and don't stop, don't quit, just keep going.
I'd love to, even after, your first sort of, oh, sugar, this initial build didn't work out, lost why, that you were still able to pivot and like figure out your next steps or your next iteration. And then you found your now CTO from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, failure is not an option when there's so much
Yes.
at stake, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a saying that, a winner is a loser who tried one more time, right? I mean, a lot of
Heck yeah.
cliche
Heck
sayings,
yeah.
but it's the
Yep.
truth. I've
Mm-hmm.
literally learned to never quit. Like
Yeah.
that's one thing I tell my kids all the time. And
Yeah.
if you can just really drive that into people at a
Mm-hmm.
young age, that if you never give up, you'll achieve anything you want.
Have you read the book Grit? Or like, have you heard about the book Grit?
No, I haven't. I'll check it
It's
out.
I'll send you the link to it, but essentially it's if you look around all the younger kids these days, everybody expects things so easy.
Yeah,
It like
well, of
it's
course.
quick and fast and easy. And I didn't grow up in that world. So I have a lot of grit, like I will persevere. And it sounds
We're
like you
products
do
of
as
our
well.
environment, Amy. We're products of our
Holy
environment.
cow.
And I don't know if the book talks about, the cycle of life that we have generations. So we have hard times create strong people. You've heard
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
before.
Hmm.
And so I feel like I came from tough people, right?
Yeah.
Tough times create strong people, but then we want to provide everything for our kids that we didn't have. So
Yeah. It's a fine line.
by default, we
Fine line.
create easy times. But,
Hmm.
my wife used to say that I was hard on my kids all the time. But no, I want to give them the world, but I want them to understand that if I do that, I'm going to create an awful future
Yeah.
for them and their children. Try and break that vicious cycle.
I'm also a little bit hard on my kids. But I don't want them to think that they can just like walk through life and it's going to be easy. Like you need to learn how to lose. So they're both in sports. And
Yeah.
yesterday, my son had a rough game. Like he didn't feel like he played as well as he could have, and he didn't. And so now we're like, okay, well, if you want to be better, how can we support you in being better? And if you
Absolutely.
want it, then work for it, buddy. Like I can't make you a sensational hockey player. You need to want that. And you need to
It
want to have
all
fun doing it.
it all started with the participation trophies.
Oh, frick. Do not even get me started. I will rant, rant, rant. And also the no keeping score. Like my kids don't even keep
Oh, I
like
didn't even
no,
know
the
about that.
association doesn't keep score. They keep score. Those kids, they know there's a winner and a loser. Like they're not
What do you mean?
dumb.
You're telling me they don't keep scoring? What sport is it?
No, U9 hockey, no keeping score.
That's a whole other podcast. Uh,
Honestly, yeah, we're gonna table that for a prony like in the
yeah,
future because holy cow.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think in the past 5 years, we've seen it all. And I think that 2025 has a lot in store for the world. I think it's going
Agreed.
to be a harsh awakening for a lot of
Hmm.
people. And I
Hmm.
can't wait for it. I'm here for
I I
it.
I'm like I'm echoing that. I'm excited for some like a little bit of course correction, Like
Yeah, we
I
need
think it'll
it.
be great. Yeah.
And again, you have to just know everything's going to work out. I mean, it's again cyclical. Look, last 5 years, look at that.
Yeah. So what else is in store for FinTracker? You're all across Canada now.
So we've always been across Canada. We just didn't have
Oh,
clients across Canada.
oh, got you. Okay.
Yes. So we're part of member benefit for Newfoundland, Labrador, Nova Scotia, which were some of our early adopters. Most of the real estate boards in Ontario, including TREB, the big one. We are all Manitoba. Now we're talking with BC and Alberta. We're hoping to open up those communication lines again, and I'm
Yep.
confident we will with our new partners.
Yep.
And we're going to put out proposals, and we aim to be, as I've written down, the industry standard.
Love that.
And I think we need one solution across the board. It sounds selfish of me to say it as the CEO of FinTracker, but I got to take my hat on and off, right? I put it on as
Of
a
course.
realtor. I
Yeah.
think it only makes sense to have a solution that eventually, with the consent of our clients,
Yeah.
can have a database that can notify you, Amy, if you're dealing with somebody that I just dealt
Hmm.
with that is
Yeah.
high risk, maybe you can be notified.
That wouldn't that be amazing?
Tools like that. We're just trying to stay ahead of the FinTrack ever-changing landscape.
Yeah, the new rules and the new forms. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, like another rant. But like the form is like a self-identifying, like, is your client a bad guy, essentially? Like there's one question that's like, are they whatever? And you're like, do you think that if I ask Mr. Buyer, hey, are you a bad guy? Do you think they're gonna say yes? Like, I don't understand.
And that is why you need tools, resources.
Yes,
And that is
100%.
exactly what we're screaming from the mountaintops is, look,
Yes.
we don't make the rules, but we have the
Yep.
tools. That's our
Hmm.
new slogan.
I
And you
love it.
enter the
Put it on a
info.
t-shirt.
Yeah. You enter the info into FinTracker, and
Yes.
we have thousands of public lists. So we're not
Hmm.
violating anybody's
Yep.
rights. And you shouldn't feel bad about violating a terrorist's rights or a money
Hmm.
launderer who's known money launderer is not supposed to transact in real estate.
Hmm.
If they're
Hmm.
on those lists, you should know. And
Agreed.
manually checking those lists is not happening. So why not automate it all? In seconds, we're able to give you
Hmm.
full reports with
Yeah.
sources and links and all of that.
I love that.
Yeah, it's time.
And
It's time the agents stop ignoring this very important process that we have to, or this legal obligation. It's an act, right?
it
And,
is, yeah.
and equip themselves with tools to do the job effectively and efficiently, just like any other challenge we have in real estate. You find an app
Right.
for it, you find
Hmm.
a solution for it.
Well, especially in, I guess 2025, we're in 2025 now. There's so much technology,
It
like why
just
not
keeps coming. It
utilize it?
keeps coming.
Yes.
I've been to some of the tech conferences, and there's some great ideas coming.
Is
Uh,
there any tech conferences that you've gone to that you've loved and you're like, can't wait to go back again?
Realtor Quest, if you haven't been,
Oh, I haven't even heard of it.
Realtor Quest is hosted by the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, and it is massive. It's full of realtors, and there's all new products and ideas coming out of there. The traffic there, you have to prepare for it. You've got to train for Realtor Quest.
Oh
It,
my gosh, it's like a marathon.
there's lineups around the building to get in.
Oh,
It's something else, and they do it so well
okay.
to
I'll have
get
to check
time.
it out.
It's in
Yeah.
Mississauga, hosted by the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. Another one, Pac West is pretty cool. Out, I want to get out to Banff. They do one as well. If you're looking to get into
Uh,
the app space, those are some of the places you want to visit, even as an attendee. I remember throwing up a booth in our first conference. We had a typo on our sign, and just do it. Just do it. Don't worry about making mistakes.
How old was FinTracker when you did your first conference as a booth?
First conference was, believe it or not, the biggest one, Realtor Quest. We went,
Oh my gosh, Simon.
we took the last pennies we had and we
Yeah.
became like one of the bigger sponsors and threw it all in and just showed
Roll
up.
the dice.
We had a week to plan it because basically we were told, come down and we'll see. And so we threw in a booth, threw in every dollar we had, and we had a sign printed, and we put it up with zip ties, and we had a big television, and we demoed the application.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were the busiest booth there. I'm telling you, there was hundreds of realtors surrounding us. We were giving out swag, and they were watching the demo, and they were all saying, "Wow, this is amazing!" And because of that, we were able to really lock down that contract.
Holy
Yeah,
cow.
it's been a ride. There's more
Okay, I
stories.
think sometimes I've made some crazy ideas and like I have a business partner as well and I'm always calling her and like, guess what, Dee? We're gonna do this. And I'm like, buckle up. And she's like, oh my gosh, Amy. And she does. She's a real team player. But it sounds like you might be that in your partnership.
You got to dive in. You
Yeah.
have to be fearless. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid of embarrassment. I'm not afraid of that at all because I know that as soon as you start, you can plan it all you want, but you have
Yeah.
to start.
Do you follow Cody Sanchez at all?
Nope.
Okay, I'll send you that too.
Send me
I think
that
sh
too. This is
I
great.
think she's a badass honey badger, and she talks about like speed of decision usually equates to success because so many people overanalyze and they have these great ideas, And they're like, and then in 10 years I'll do that. They haven't done shit. They're just writing like no action. And she's like, essentially, success loves speed of decision making. And it
I
sounds like
want
you have that in spades.
procrastination is the worst thing. You're
Hmm.
only hurting yourself.
Yeah,
Just
I love how bold FinTracker is, and it's probably led to the success.
I think the number one ingredient to our success has been being a realtor, honestly. But yeah, just being fearless and just never stopping. And we were kicking down doors and showing up to boards and going, "We want 5 minutes of your time. Like, you have to
Mhm.
hear us." Nobody wanted to listen, right? The F
Yeah.
word, FinTrack, the F word, right? It's like
Yeah. It's the worst F word out there.
early on when we had our first prototype, I flew to Ottawa and demanded a meeting at Korea. I went in the room and they said, fine, you have 15 minutes. And I gave them the spiel and we thought we nailed it. And then the lady resigned from there, from her position. So it was a waste of time. I mean,
Oh
it's
my
crazy. But
goodness.
we just kept doing that. We just kept doing
Okay,
I
this
don't
reminds
recommend you all go kick down doors at the boards though,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah. I won't do that. Thank you though. Um, it reminds me, and I was going to talk about this in our prelude, but have you been to fuck up nights yet?
No. You were
I'm
asking, you
like,
said that earlier. What is that?
yes, okay, I'll send you this as well. And there could be a local one in Winnipeg, but there's one in Calgary and there's one like in a bunch of cities, but it's where entrepreneurs go who have found some sort of success, but they talk about all their fuck ups. Essentially, it's lessons
I
learned
love it.
because people are always like, shiny object. It looks so easy, but it's not. And so I'm loving the authentic conversations from those events because they're like, this was hard and I did this wrong and this wrong and this wrong. It provides a roadmap for anybody who's listening or gives a shit on like what not to do or do it and maybe do it less painfully. I don't know, less hives.
Yeah, I'm pretty transparent. If you've ever come to one of my webinars, it's different every time. And they used to tell me, try and be a little bit more professional. And I said, listen, I only know how to be one way, and it's
Mhm.
myself. And
Yeah.
realtors are amazing judges of character. If
Yes.
you
Yes.
are bullshitting them,
Agreed. Yeah.
they'll see right through it and they'll tune out.
Yeah, my spidey
So,
senses can pick up a bullshitter pretty quickly.
there
There's the
you
odd
go.
one that's like slips through, but like for the most part, I'm just like, kick rocks.
I've been myself,
Yeah.
and the new partners coming in, I let them know this is who I am.
And were
Uh,
they cool with it?
oh yeah, well,
Well,
I
they're
mean,
still investing, so that's good.
look at our track record speaks for itself, right? I
Yeah.
didn't go to university. I did it through trial and error my whole
Mhm,
life, and again, I'm not going to change a thing. I'm
mhm.
just going to continue being me, the glorified used house salesman who came up with an app idea.
Well, I love it. I'm here for it. Has there been like one thing on your journey? I like to sort of like end the official podcast always with this question. One training or one video or book or person or something that you've come across that has really been transformative in how you operate or your business that you would recommend to others?
I read a book. It's by Joe Girard. Have you ever, How to Sell Yourself? You've never read
No.
this?
Mm-mm.
You need to read this book.
Okay, all
How
right.
to Sell Yourself by Joe Girard. That book, I actually have read it about 10 times.
Okay.
Anytime you need a refresher, you grab that. I have highlights in there. That book is amazing, and it really tells you, how to sell yourself. But you do that through being honest and bringing value. And in real estate, same
Mm-hmm.
thing. When I started out in real estate, this is really where I learned how to make a connection with my clients. So my
Mm-hmm.
first contract, as I told you, was a 30-unit condo development.
Which
So they
is
gave me
so sweet.
it is so sweet. It was hard though because they gave me a display suite. I'd never done this before, right? And so it
Yeah.
was a revolving door of clients. And I remember the first client that came in, I completely, got nervous, sweating,
Yeah.
and I ruined it. But I
Oh,
kept going.
yeah.
And then I honed my craft in that display suite. I
Mhm.
learned that it has very little to do with real estate. You want to make a connection with these people. They're making the
Mhm.
single largest investment they're ever going to make. You
Yeah.
want to learn about them. Maybe you have something in common. Once you find that common ground, then
Yeah.
you can start talking business because the
Hmm.
guard comes down, right? Most
Yeah.
folks that start in real estate, they're like trying to be car salesmen, and this is the car, and this is it.
I
No,
hate it. It
get to
cringe.
know your clients.
Hmm.
Understand what their motivation is, what they need, what are their
Yeah.
needs, right? The
Yeah.
wife maybe loves to be a chef. Maybe the guy loves cooking. So
Hmm.
now when you're in the kitchen, you talk to him about the kitchen and find that connection. But yeah, I learned that in that display suite, just understanding the different walks of life and the different types of folks that really helped me in all of my businesses.
Hmm.
There's so many different types of people, but you find
Heck
it
yeah, there are.
with all of them. We're all the same in the end.
Yeah, deep down, we're probably all the same. I'm gonna add that to my book. I have to go out to BC on Thursday, so I usually do podcasts or audiobooks for that drive.
Joe Gerard, How to Sell Yourself. Very cool.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Simon. Honestly, I really appreciate learning a bit more about FinTracker. I cannot wait for this press release, and it was such a pleasure getting to know you.
Amy, is a pleasure. I've never done this before, but you made it so easy. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope to chat with you again sometime.
Likewise, maybe at this Realtor Quest.
It's Realtor, not Realtor.
Oh, there we go. Hey, I'm from the East Coast. I have an accent.
Yes, we'll give you a pass. Very nice
Thanks.
to meet you, Amy. Have a great day, and don't forget, start.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation and exploring both current and predicted future real estate trends. Want to keep the conversation going? You can find us, FutureRE, on both Instagram and TikTok.